Welcome to Mindful Stories. This is not a story about becoming rich overnight or winning against the world. This is a story about something quieter, deeper, and far more powerful. It is about an ordinary person who felt lost in a fast world and slowly learned how to find himself again. If you have ever felt tired without knowing why, this story is for you. He was not unhappy in an obvious way. He had a routine, responsibilities, and a life that looked acceptable from the outside. Yet every morning felt heavier than the last. There was a constant noise in his mind, even in silence. He smiled when required, spoke when needed, and moved forward because stopping felt dangerous. But somewhere inside, he felt like he was slowly disappearing. The world around him never stopped moving. People were achieving, posting, celebrating, competing. Every scroll reminded him of what he was not. He didn't envy others, he questioned himself. "Am I falling behind?" became his most repeated thought. And no one around him noticed this quiet battle. He tried to fix himself the way the world suggested. Work harder. Think positive. Stay busy. Fill the silence with noise. But the more he tried, the more exhausted he became. It felt like running on a treadmill that never slowed down. One evening, after a long and ordinary day, something strange happened. Nothing dramatic, no breakdown, no tears. He simply stopped. He sat alone, without music, without his phone, without distraction. For the first time in years, he allowed the silence to exist. And that silence felt uncomfortable. His thoughts rushed in like strangers who had been waiting outside. Regrets, fears, unfinished dreams, self-doubt. He wanted to escape, but instead, he stayed. It was difficult, but it was honest. He realized how long he had been running from himself. And that realization hurt more than failure ever did. Days passed, and he began doing something unusual. He observed instead of reacting. He listened instead of interrupting his own thoughts. He noticed how his mind jumped to conclusions. How it exaggerated problems and minimized achievements. This awareness was uncomfortable, but also freeing. He understood something important. His suffering was not always caused by reality, but by his interpretation of it. The world was loud, but his mind was louder. He had been fighting life instead of flowing with it. And this fight had drained him silently. Peace, he realized, was not something to chase, but something to allow. Slowly, his habits began to change. Not dramatically, not perfectly. He started waking up without immediately checking his phone. He allowed himself to breathe before reacting. He accepted that not every day had to feel productive. Rest stopped feeling like guilt. People around him didn't notice a big transformation. There was no sudden success, no visible upgrade. But inside, something fundamental had shifted. He no longer panicked over delays. He no longer measured his worth by comparison. He was learning to be present. There were still bad days. Moments of doubt returned, as they always do. But now, he met them differently. He didn't fight his thoughts, he observed them. He didn't label himself as weak for feeling lost. He treated himself with patience he had once reserved for others. He learned that clarity comes after stillness, not before it. That answers appear when the noise reduces. That growth is often invisible before it becomes visible. And that rushing only delays understanding. Life didn't become easier, but it became lighter. And that made all the difference. One day, he realized something quietly powerful. He was no longer waiting to become someone else. He was finally present as himself. Not perfect. Not complete. But aware, grounded, and real. This story is not about winning against life. It is about stopping the unnecessary war within. Because sometimes, progress looks like silence. Healing looks like slowing down. And strength looks like choosing peace over pressure. Not everyone who is quiet is losing, some are rebuilding. If this story resonated with you, if it felt familiar in ways you can't fully explain, then you are not alone. You are simply becoming aware. Thank you for spending these moments with Mindful Stories. If this story made you think, stay with us. More meaningful stories are waiting for you.